economy trumps everything else. US has the most advanced democracy in the world. Majority of the time, I would say 95% of the time, they have loved their culture. Indian culture perhaps is the most hospitable culture in the world.
Welcome to this month's ASAP Netcast webinar. I hope today finds you and your family and colleagues well during these virtual and challenging times for all of us. With us today is Sanjay Sehgal of MSys Group of Companies. But before I dive into today's program, I want to just remind everyone of a few key benefits of ASAP. ASAP was developed on the pillars of three different pillars: knowledge and resources, events and community, and education and professional development. And just a couple highlights with the knowledge and resources. We have a quarterly magazine called Strategic Alliance Quarterly, just came out with a Q3 issue. We've got a couple different publications, the Handbook of Alliance Management, and the image that you see up on the screen is the Guide to Pharmaceutical Partnering and Information Technology Partnering. From an events and community standpoint, we just finished up our ASAP Biopharma Conference. We are well underway with planning for the ASAP Global Alliance Summit. And I will speak specifically to the Alliance Excellence Awards in a few seconds here. And education and professional development, thank you for being here with the Netcast webinar series. We hope that you enjoy these. These are definitely a key benefit of membership. We have our certification and exam prep workshops. We just finished up one a couple weeks ago for the CAM certification, and we actually have another workshop that's coming up in November that is taught by David Thompson from Eli Lilly, and he's an amazing instructor, and I encourage you to go to our website and take a look at it. Click under events and workshops and you'll find out more information there. And I had mentioned the Alliance Excellence Awards. We collect these every year and we present these at our Global Alliance Summit. We just finished up, and actually if you go to our website, we'll have the actual awards program up in video, so if you'd like to take a look at that. But I encourage you to go to the web link that's on your on the screen. Submissions are due by October 30th, and it's a great way to not only feature your partnerships and your collaborations and your alliances, but also to just bring recognition to the community in general. Now, the real reason you're here is actually to hear Sanjay, and his topic today is Reinvent Your Business with Indian Partners and a Massive Talent Pool. And I think we'll all agree that the coronavirus pandemic has at some level awakened the world to its own weaknesses with supply chain and sourcing strategies. And while America has been engaged with India for decades, there has been a renewed business exchange by building a robust supply chain as well as access to one of the fastest growing consumer markets. And today I think you'll find that Sanjay will discuss business culture in India and the many Indias within India, top 10 challenges in doing business with India, and upcoming industries in India, and the top 3 tips for doing business within India. Sanjay is currently the chairman and CEO of MSys Technologies. He's a multifaceted person donning many hats, or several hats, from a technology entrepreneur to global businessman to startup advisor, keynote speaker, philanthropist, heartful human, a meditation instructor, which I think all of us need right now, a self-development enthusiast who has taught meditation techniques to thousands of people as part of a self-development journey. Sanjay, as you can tell, is a serial entrepreneur. He's founded 3 technology companies in the US, founded a 4th company, MSys Technologies, and that has acquired 3 digital transformation companies within 5 years. Today, our audience should get a real good sense for Sanjay's hands-on experience with India business ecosystem. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sanjay. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kim and ASAP. Thanks a lot for this opportunity of sharing some, bits of wisdom, if I may call it, about India. As you said, the times are challenging. I mean, I think I was preparing myself not to repeat that unprecedented times, right? I mean, we all know that enough. We are in the 9th or 10th month of this pandemic situation, depending upon when you started counting. So I think it's a situation which which does require new way of thinking. So before I get into things, I thought let me do a level set. Let me see among the audience what people are looking for, where people's head is at, so I can tailor my message according to that. So I typically use Menti to do that, and if it's very simple, if you, I'm sure everybody has a phone and a browser, they can go to menti.com and enter this code. If everyone, including the panelists, they can all do that. Menti.com, and the code is 2157149. Again, it is 2157149, and you will be taken through a set of questions. And I think if you can answer those questions, the first question obviously is, are you worried about global supply chain partners in these times? I'm not selling any services. That's one thing I may tell you here in this presentation. So it's not that we are doing any lead generation through this. So if you say yes or no, so I think it's okay. I think, and these are all anonymous survey. This is purely anonymous survey. We don't get to know your name or anything. So are you worried? So 4 people are worried about global supply chain partners, and you can continue to answer. There are more questions after this, and some people may still be struggling to find where the chain it is, the Menti is and all. Menti.com, code is 2157149. Remember that. So we got, I think, seems like most of the people who are attending are worried about this. So if you can go to the next one. What are the main causes of your worry? Oh, well, okay, so COVID is less than the geopolitical issues, of course. I mean, that's understandable as well. And it's a bit surprising to me, but definitely it's worth hearing and knowing about this. So if you go to the next one, are you considering countries like India for your global? Yes, people said yes and no. Okay, 7 said no. Okay, 2 said no. Hopefully, at the end of the presentation, you would have changed your mind, or at least you would start considering India as one of your destination for partnership needs. You can go to the next one. What are the main drivers in finding a global partnership destination? Technology, supplier of parts, manufacturing. Well, that's all good. That's wonderful to know. It's not just lopsided to technology, which typically people, a lot of, because people already know that India is a good destination for partnership needs and technology. Okay, we can go to the next one. Okay, that's about it. Okay, so I think, see what happened. I guess why this, when this topic, I started thinking about it, and I think if you can go to the first slide, I think we all are, of course, as I said, strange times started in February or March, and we're still going through it, and we don't know when it is going to end. Typically, we say there is light at the end of the tunnel. Here, there is a tunnel. We don't know where the light is. Some people say light has been turned off temporarily or permanently, depending upon how you look at it, pessimistic view or optimistic view. But these are strange times, and what we all faced in February or March was a supply shock, especially those who were, in a way, uh, doing business with China. And there was a big supply shock which started in February, followed by a big demand shock, which started once the global economy went through recession. I mean, beginning of March, we all were looking at lowest unemployment rate on record. Within 3 weeks, it became the highest. I mean, of course, the demand shock was there. Now, of course, things are turning around a bit as far as demand is concerned. And I feel that with the demand, you're also going to see the need for ensuring your supply. Often, of course, last few months, a lot of people, a lot of countries started talking about more, doing things locally rather than internationally, rather than global. People started looking at national, local suppliers and all, including India. I must tell you that. But I think we all know that, first of all, there is a human urge which is going to bring the demand back, because if you look at each one of us, I mean, we all are used to certain kind of level of comfort in our lives. We're not going to overnight change things, right? Or change our habits. We may start, or instead of going to the store, start ordering online, but things are not going to change overnight. Uh, and same thing with the need for having the lowest cost of goods. I mean, those are the two things which I think will continue to drive need for global partners. So all this talk that we talk about, we don't need, let's bring everything in house, let's bring everything within our country and all, whether it be India or US or China or something. I don't think it is going to stay on for very long. And I know in US we also face the issue of all these tariffs. I mean, that's a thing, and which is kind of compounding some of these things, and that's the reason why people are looking beyond just China. Of course, we all know that China has been the #1 manufacturing destination for every country in the world, but now almost everywhere people are talking about China plus one. I think people are looking at alternates, and not only that, I think India as a country is preparing itself to attract those people who are considering that strategy. So India is opening its door, making it easier, and that's what I'm going to tell you in more detail as we move along the presentation. But why India? Why not Mexico or Canada? Let's say Canada borders are closed right now. I mean, you can't even send your people there. But I think if you look at what has happened in the last few months, if I say, in fact, the day the pandemic started, Facebook made a huge investment along with Google. I think both put together made an investment of $15 billion in one of the Indian companies, because they wanted to not be kind of, they didn't want to miss out on this India bandwagon. Even I think, and of course, everybody knows last year Walmart acquired one of the largest retail online retailers in India, which is competing very well with Amazon. That is called Flipkart. And just recently, I think this week, Walmart has committed about $25 billion of investment in another retail app or retailer there in India. So I'm just telling you these things, that in these times when we all know striking a deal like this of this magnitude is so difficult, because you can't just go and have face-to-face meeting. I'll tell you, most of these deals have been announced by the CEOs of these companies sitting in their sunroom or in their study, just like I am sitting here, and they announce these such massive deals. It means they all see the sense of urgency to find markets, find suppliers, find partners beyond their existing ones, and they are choosing India. And that's a thing I can simply say. I can rest my case there, but I like to educate you a bit more about this. If you can go to the next slide. And I think what India, I mean, if you look at, I mean, the trade deficit between, or the amount of imports sorry, US does from China, they say it is in the order of about 500 billion, I mean, half a trillion or so. Now, if you look around and see which low-cost countries can actually have the ability or have the economies, #1, which is bigger than that, or can do have the manpower and infrastructure and everything else that is required to fulfill that need, and you will see that India will sit at the top of that list. And that is a very important consideration from the size perspective. Now, I mean, some people say, well, I mean, that may be the US India thing, trade deficit or trade partnership and all. But for a company, large, mid-size, or small, India can provide you with things that will fit everyone. And I think as we go through this, I will tell you more about it. Now, I mean, other thing, important thing to consider now, in one thing which we all know, what COVID has taught us is technology is here to stay. So if anybody was thinking that days of technology are numbered or automation will go back from automation to manual, I'm sure people realize they are mistaken. And second, remote working. Now, of course, it is more so in certain industries than others, like in manufacturing, you can't do remote working, but that's where the automation is going, the adoption rate of automation is going to accelerate in the future. If you look at some of the reports and all that, you will read that. I mean, despite all the talk of nationalism, the adoption rate of automation will accelerate in all the manufacturing, in the manufacturing sector all over the world, including India and China and US. So remote work or automation in a way is set to become the new normal. So one thing which remote work does is that it doesn't matter where your resources are. Now you'll find that my presentation as you move along is a bit tilted towards, I would say, the knowledge economy or more IT side, because that's what my company does and that's what I mean, my most of my expertise is in. But uh, I think I will continue to add things from manufacturing side, because as I see many of you are, or some of you are looking for that as well. So you will find that this is, of course, is talking about India is currently the #1 outsourcing destination in the world. Now, often people have, I mean, we work with, as a company, MSys has worked with startups which have just been funded, all the way to the mature companies, multi-billion-dollar companies like HPE and others. And we have found that despite all the things that happen in the world, our workforce and our productivity and our business continue to run, because we were all set for remote working. We had enabled all of our employees for remote working. All our clients were unable, I mean, they had enabled us to be able to provide them everything that was needed in terms of releasing their software and all that. So software industry, that's why no wonder you see the stock market right now is being held together by the few software giants, right? Because I mean, they are, uh, because nothing is stopping them, nothing is stopping their work. But within IT itself, it's not just software development, but it is also the BPO, which is the business process outsourcing, the knowledge process outsourcing, and so many other areas which which have happened over the years, making India really the #1 outsourcing destination in the world. And I said, because I mean, besides the size of Indian economy and talent pool, second largest English speaking population in the world. You won't find that anywhere. In fact, I mean, even though the accents may be different, but now you find that even the training in accents and training in being able to use the lingo here, especially in the call centers and BPOs and all, it has reached a level where at times you don't even feel who's taking your call. I mean, they may be sitting in India somewhere in small village or small tier 2 or tier 3 town there, but you will feel as if they're sitting next to you. Of course, the infrastructure that we all have around us is enabling all that as well. And then 50% of Fortune 500 companies outsource their IT development to India alone. Once, a few years ago, that is almost actually 10 years ago, I attended a JP Morgan conference, and I mean, even at that time, I must share this with you, that they had mentioned to us that they have more engineers or more developers or more IT staff in India supporting the entire JP Morgan than anywhere else in the world. If you look at companies like IBM, where is their largest office? I won't even call outside of US, largest office period, that is India. Accenture, 80,000 or 100,000 employees they have in India. I mean, if you look at all these companies, why? Because of these reasons. India has the the largest English speaking population in the world. India has the technical talent. India encourages innovation, and India has made it easier for all these companies to actually set up their shops there. And I think if you go to the next one, other thing which I think which we have not shared here is, I had also helped many companies in IT to set up their operations prior to me getting into doing this myself that I'm currently doing. And once I had looked at the number of graduates, engineering graduates that come out of engineering colleges or universities in US versus the number of engineering graduates coming out of universities in India. And you'll be surprised that India has almost, I would say, 5 to 6 times the number of engineering graduates coming out every year than US. See, often people think, even from the software perspective, that, oh, well, we don't need to outsource because we have talent here. I disagree completely, vehemently, because we don't. I run a company myself. We have offices here in Atlanta and California as well as in India, and it is not possible to get all the talent here. And that is, I mean, you may give one or two examples, but the number of engineers, when I tell you IBM or Accenture have 80,000, 100,000 people, the volume that some of the companies, larger companies, need, that cannot be fulfilled by the number of graduates that are coming out of US universities in a given year. And now, of course, if you look at same thing, I mean, not only in computers, but in manufacturing and all that, many times this discussion has happened, and I'm sure you guys would have read that Apple cannot move their manufacturing away from China to here because there are not enough factories here to fulfill the need of all the iPhones or MacBooks that need to be manufactured. So that's the reason. I mean, I'm kind of digressing from the topic a little bit, but just justifying why outsourcing is needed. But we all know that every company should play to their strengths locally and look for outsourcing partners for things which are not needed to be done here. And that's what most of the companies have done. Now, India rises in global innovation index. India is typically, when you see as compared to China, India generally has good, knowledge, tech, and outputs. I mean, good, I would say, in global innovation index, India has moving up in last few years. But I think where knowledge and technical outputs are concerned, India generally comes kind of ahead of many other developing countries and many other low-cost destinations. Where India lacks or India is behind China is infrastructure. That you can see, of course, India is 75. India's rank is 75 in terms of infrastructure and creative outputs and institutions, and they don't have enough maturity there, which hopefully in the coming years, as India is preparing itself to be a good destination, a good alternate destination to China, India is going to improve infrastructure. And now typically an Indian worker or an Indian employee, they say they think with their hands. That is kind of, that is, I would say, you can say in vocations like coding, electric work, carpentry, India is known. Now, I think one other thing which I don't think we have covered in our slide set is very few people know that in the times of Corona, which country will produce the maximum number of vaccines? That is India. 40% of the vaccine in the world will be produced by India, because they already are, not only they are prepared, but they already have orders. Gates Foundation, Moderna, which is, I mean, the Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson, all of them have already found their partners in India to be able to manufacture it there. And I was also reading that currently 50% of generic drugs in US, they come from India. About 20 to 30% of auto parts, they come from India. The Ford EcoSport for US market is produced in Chennai, southern part of India. So there are a lot of things which are already happening. India is not just the knowledge capital, or not just but it is also the vaccine capital. It's also the generic drug capital. It's also the auto part capital. It is coming up. It is just a matter of now all of us being able to see and leverage that to our advantage. You can go to the next slide. Now, one area where I think India still needs to, I would say, improve a lot is ease of doing business. And this is the current report from World Bank. India has improved a lot, as you will see, from 2014 to 2019. India's ranking has improved a lot, but still not there. Now, but I think typically how the way to get around this is, that anyone who is considering India as a destination, look for a good partner. That is a way to get around it. Test the water with the help of a partner. That's what some of you may know already. Walmart did. Walmart actually invested in a local company prior to doing a lot of things on their own. For almost about, I would say, 5 to 7 years, they tested the water in the Indian retail market using a partner. And even now, instead of just investing or just setting up their own shop, they're acquiring companies. I think, and that's a very smart move. Same thing we advise to, of course, anybody looking for technical help, look for a partner there first before you do anything on your own. And once you test the water, once you understand, only then you can invest. Then, of course, things like this, ease of doing business becomes easier because partners, good thing is that you will not be the first one who's looking for a partner. There are partners available there almost in every field. And one thing which India ranks a lot higher, it's not mentioned here, over China is IP protection. And India being another democratic country, it's a lot easier to to figure out things there than in countries like China. If you can go to the next slide. Now, one intriguing thing about India, and which is also something which is a good selling point for India, that when you are doing business in India, you are doing business with many Indias. They say every 200 miles, you will come across a new India. You'll find, they say, same tea, different blends. I'm sure many of you know that Indians love chai or tea, right? Chai latte that Starbucks sells. I mean, many of those things come from India. And in India, every few hundred miles, it is, people may not be even drinking tea, maybe drink coffee, and again tea, and then something else, then something else. I mean, it is very, very interesting to note. Same thing goes with the talent pool that is available. Like I mentioned to you guys about Chennai. I mean, we have offices in Chennai ourselves, and Chennai has, I think, a factory for Hyundai, a factory for Kia, and I think Ford also has set up a factory there. Same thing in Pune. Pune is another that where Mercedes, many parts of our Mercedes get built, and BMW as well. And I think there are parts of India which are known more for wineries. I mean, Nasik, which is not too far from Pune in Maharashtra, near Mumbai, which is the financial capital of India. There are wineries, and I myself have seen so many, wineries from Europe and US having their shop there, having their factories there. So I think it is in India, you have resources, natural resources, human resources available for doing variety of things. And if someone is looking at India as a market, I think that's kind of, our team has put this together. The Amazon is right now growing very fast. I mean, in fact, Amazon also committed about $6 billion of their investment because it is one of the fastest growing economies in the world right now. India is. So they have, I mean, for them to win there, they had to come up with a new strategy. The strategy that they have been using all these years in US was not going to work there. So they are saying by acting locally in India, that from customer backwards and local R&D. I mean, one example of that I'll tell you is in India, which is not very, population is very large and labor is not very as expensive as in US. So, and some people are still, they don't, have as much faith in online deliveries as we in all in US have. So they have a new model of that pay on delivery, cash on delivery, which I am sure most of us perhaps had heard about 20, 30 years ago in US, but now hardly anybody uses it. In India, it's a common way of delivery, a common way of ordering, cash on delivery. So they changed their entire portal to enable that. Same thing how the local deliveries happen. They will deliver it to a local shop. People trust a local shop more than an online portal. So Amazon in here, like here, they do that to a post office, or they have a mailbox or something that they can deliver to. They're delivering to a local neighborhood shop. So things like that, I think they really modified their model. Hindustan Liver woke up to this change reality first with winning in many India's strategy. So they what basically what in case of Hindustan Liver, which is kind of mostly in FMCG market, they can come up with different products for different market, different packages for different markets, and they are one of the most successful FMCG players in India. And now Apple, I think recently, I think a few years ago, Apple started manufacturing certain models of phone. I think iPhone 6, that was their cheapest phone, and they manufactured for the entire world in India, because India was the largest market for iPhone 6 at that point in time. And they continue to do that. Now they are, I think, adding other iPhone models as well to their manufacturing facility. If you can go to the next slide. I think here are some tips. I mean, this presentation I'm sure can be made available to you, that I think most of you would have heard some of these things. This is more educational for you, that the business culture in India, the etiquette starts with they say namaste, but I mean you can hello also works. I mean I think that's one benefit of I would say globalization, that everyone knows these days everything, and English is the official language of business. Uh, that's where I think if you are looking to invest in India or looking to set up your own infrastructure, you may find challenge without having a partner, because that's when you would require the knowledge of local languages. Otherwise, I think English you can, as if you're working with a partner, I think English would continue to work and there's no problem. And the business relationships are of utmost importance. They will base their decision on trust and intuition. They're a lot more trustworthy and a little less business-like than many of us from US are used to seeing, which I think once you understand, I think you will begin to appreciate. I mean, um, many times I think many companies I have acquired there, and the founders of those companies within like the second or third meeting invite me to their home for a meal or something, having with their family and all, which is not so common around here. But I think that's kind of they do take a leap of trust very quickly. Indian operations are much more flexible, and I mean that's, I would say, unless you have a good partner, could be a bad thing as well, because flexibility, or we call it Indian stretchable time, IST, like we have here EST, PST and all that. In India we say IST, Indian stretchable time. That I think the sense of time and commitment is not as stringent as we all are used to here. And like in many Asian cultures we have seen, including in China, in Japan I used to do business with, there we say that yes, yes means no. I mean, it is so some of that is there in India as well, though not to the same extent. And but I think once you are able to find partners these days where the standards will be similar to what we are used to seeing here in US. And senior Indian professionals have international outlook and think globally. Many of them are expats who have gone back from here during different time periods. So I think that makes doing business in India very easy. Business dress code and small talk. I mean, these are some of the things I'm sure we can all share with you. I think last one is what I mentioned earlier. They have difficulty in saying no because they don't want to offend the other person. But I think one of you who have done business in Japan or China, I'm sure are used to that. India has less degree of that no versus yes. If you can go to the next. Now, of course, I have mentioned to you about why one should do India. India is a very good low-cost destination for those who are looking for volume work, looking for niche work, looking for knowledge work, manufacturing, medical, even agriculture. I mean, there are many things now getting imported or exported out or from India. There are challenges. Some of those I have mentioned. One is starting a business, dealing with construction permits, getting electricity. Now, some of these come if you are looking to invest there of your own. And that's where to get around this, I mentioned having a partner. If this is the first time you're looking at India, go through a partner or go with a partner first, test the water, then all these things will not matter to you. You can go to the next. I think earlier when I was talking about culture, one thing I mentioned that many of the Indian CU business heads or businesses, very few of them, even even in these tough times, have actually laid off people. Very few of them. And that is the culture in India typically. Layoffs are not as common as we find them around here, though now it is becoming more professional. And we in our company or our operations which are there in India, we ourselves have done some layoffs in the past few months, but now we're back to hiring again. So we are growing as a company. But in India, but unlike China, they don't make it very difficult for you from the government side. And recently, for one of our clients, they had a development center in Wuhan, out of all the places. So we did a lift and shift model. We kind of took their development center from that part of the world to India. And we found that during that time, we found out how difficult it was to lay off people in China. That, I mean, the severance that you give and all that stuff, none of that is there in India. Though I don't think we are saying that explicitly in any slide, but I'm telling you based on my own experience in Europe, and we all know what kind of pain you have to go through to close down an office or to lay off people. Same thing in China, but it is not the same in India. That is a very positive thing because things can go south, or you may change a strategy, close office in one city and open another one. So it is that is a very positive thing there. And upcoming industries in India, that's from a report, of course, healthcare and pharmaceutical. Now, edtech, I mean, educational services or educational technology. I mean, with everything going remote these days, guess where all the teachers, where all the future education technologies or education workers are going to come from. The education capital is going to be India. So anyone who is in educational services, I think India is a good destination for finding partners. I mean, there are people who are, I mean, this is a perfect fit for gig economy also. I'm not just talking the technology part, but the services part. You can find highly talented people there at a fraction of cost that you would have to pay to an expert here. And of course, e-commerce and technology startups. I mean, that is, it is huge there right now. Knowledge process outsourcing, that is big as well. Agriculture, agrochemicals, fast FMCG, information technology. In fact, if you've seen this list, IT is number 6 or 7. I mean, others are, ahead of that. Amazon has built their largest offices now in Hyderabad. That is also in southern part of India this year. They were actually they were supposed to inaugurate that in June. Now they have pushed it out post COVID, but they are investing heavily there. Same thing, Morgan Stanley and so many other companies. We can go to the next slide. So top 3 tips for doing business in India. So one is location matters, evaluate entry strategy, and size does not matter. And I have been mentioning these things. Location matters because the talent, the kind of talent you would need, and you will find, you would find the right location for the talent. Like in my company, we are in infrastructure technology. One part of our business is there. There we have offices in Chennai and Bangalore. And then we have a business which is more in file system and some other high performance computing. For that, we have an office in Pune. And then we have a business which is digital transformation business. For that, again, we actually acquired a couple of companies in Bangalore. So location, I mean, the talent, unlike here we say, well, the best company could be in Nebraska. I mean, doesn't matter, people will move. But I think in India, even despite all the advancement, there is a bit of resistance to move. And then, within India, you don't want to make people move because it'll, incur more cost. So best is find, based on the talent you're looking for, based on the kind of work that you need to get done, find a partner, or find, if you want to do it yourself, find the best location for that. And there are a lot of reports available to look at that. And then evaluate entry strategy. I think I mentioned already, finding a partner in case you haven't done this is the best way to test the water. We have clients who have been with us for about almost 10 years. Initially, they started working with us thinking that they will just test the water, and they continue to do so. They say, well, it ain't broke, why change it? I mean, things are working so well for them. And size doesn't matter. I think that's kind of, I also mentioned earlier that I think we have, you have Amazon, Ford, Hyundai, or you have, all the kinds of Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies there. Plus, you also have a startup looking for somebody to just do the code for them, the gig workers. So that is one beauty of India, or the flat world, that opportunity it offers us is, you can be sitting here, you need to get some code done, and you can go to some sites to find gig workers, and the guy may be sitting in India, can write the code for you at a fraction of cost. But if you're looking for a partner, you can find a partner which fits your size. So size really doesn't matter. Now, with the kind of the volume of knowledge workers which are coming out of their engineering colleges, which are all English speaking workers, India as a market, they said India also has the world's largest youth population in any given country. With all the restrictions, the one child policy in China, though China is more populous than India, but China has less number of young people than India. Now, why companies like Facebook and Walmart, Amazon are investing heavily? Because it is soon going to be the largest middle class population there. I think somewhere I had read, I think Indian middle class number of people in that band in India are 360 million. That is, I think, more than the population of US. Though granted that their income is not as much as we have in US, but that is the volume we're looking for future. Okay, we can go to the next. I think this was the last slide. So I hope it was useful for you, and those of you who were not considering India, I hope I gave them enough information to be able to change their minds. But if there are any questions, anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions based on my experience and based on all the work that I have done in my life.
Hi, Sanjay, thank you so much. I mean, I think we all learned quite a bit in terms of doing business in India, and we do have some questions as well, not only specific to doing business in India, but also from your perspective of being a pretty seasoned CEO. We don't get that opportunity very often to pick your brain and that. So the first question that we have is, how would you recommend trying to establish a relationship of trust in India with an Indian partner in a new partnership, given the constraints of COVID, virtual meetings, etc.? And that.
See, I mentioned to you that as very close to the announcement or very close to the time all the countries were in lockdown mode, that was March. I think it was in April that Mark Zuckerberg announced a $6.5 billion investment in an Indian company. Now, how he would have closed that announcement sitting here, and the announcement was made by that Ambani, Mukesh Ambani, that is one of the richest man in India. Him sitting in his office or his home office, Zuckerberg sitting in his home office, and they're making the announcement. Point I'm making is, if billions of dollars, deals worth billions of dollars can be struck from between the two countries remotely, I mean, finding partners is the easy part. I also want to share something from our personal experience that in my own company, we did have some downturn, I must say, between March, April, May. From June onwards, we are growing our business again, and we are signing new customers. And my sales team, as you know, some of my team members who are present here, they are in India right now. And I mean, my sales team is in India and in California, and they are closing deals all over the world. So it is possible, to find those partners, because India is technically as not as backward as many of us, or as it was, let's say, 20 years ago, or many of us still think it is. It is possible to do all these things via Zoom, via webinar, via Teams, or via WebEx. And India has now its own indigenous WebMeet products as well. You can do that. It is, of course, often we say in US, I need to find a partner by looking into the eyes of the person. But I think in the new normal, we may want to get used to this, that look into the eye through these webcams.
Absolutely. I think we've all adapted, haven't we?
Yeah.
And that
And
to whatever our next normal is. It's what I think I like to call it.
whatever next normal. One last thing I will add to that is that I think I recently hired a very senior executive here in Arizona, and I had the same problem that typically, you like to meet a person, or at least, I mean, someone has one of your executive team members meet him, but this time we couldn't, and so we just, we went deeper into the reference checks to ensure that we are hiring the right person, right? So
Yep.
that's one thing you can all do, that I think, ask your partner or potential partner for references. Do more reference checks than you would normally do.
Good advice. Very good advice. We have another question from somebody, and they started out with Namaste. And
Sure.
how easy is it for Western organizations to adjust to the Indian organizational culture?
It's a very good question. And I think if you find a good partner, I can tell you, when I meet with any potential clients, and we have enough of us here in US to be able to give that feeling of comfort to them, that even though their work, technology work, may mostly be done in India for the reasons of lower cost, but they are going to get service level which they're used to here in US. Or same thing goes with the culture. And but I think I have found that many of those clients say, no, well, I want to visit that office in India where the work will be done. So we, of course, one of us will go with them, we take them there, and majority of the time, I would say 95% of the time, they have loved the culture there. And because Indians are very, very hospitable. Indian culture, I mean, if you see all around the world, right? I mean, I don't want to boast because I kind of grew up in India, or born, and my initial few years I spent in India. That Indian culture perhaps is the most hospitable culture in the world, and I would say the most calming culture in the world. You will find, I mean, despite all the poverty and everything else that you would see there, or the problem, infrastructure problems will be there and all that. But as when it comes to people, you will find them to be the best, one of the best in the world. And it makes things easier. Now, from the delivery perspective, I think I mentioned where yes means no. I have found them to be between Japan and US. They are not, I mean, Japan, I used to struggle a lot. I mean, I did business a few years ago in Japan, and if they tell you yes, yes, and then 2 days later you didn't get the business because they went back, and that's when the actual decision was made. They, and it is not so much so like that in India, but it's still not as transparent and direct as in US or as we are used to here. And there, I think if you can find a good partner which does have a mix of things, that will be helpful.
Very good advice. I think it's difficult sometimes for all of us to understand different cultures. So when we can hear from somebody that has experience with those cultures, I think it's extremely helpful in developing partnerships for sure. We have another question that it actually relates to our conversation before things even began in terms of the webinar. But your comments on the political stability in India and any impact the US election is going to have on partnerships that exist in India with US companies.
I don't think so. Why I say that is because, first of all, India is not an extremist state, as we all know very well. And other is that even though the Indian government currently has very good relationship with the US government, uh, it had good relationship even with the prior US administration during the times of Obama, and during the times of Clinton also they had good relationship. So I think India is, or George Bush rather, I mean, George Bush was perhaps, or Clinton was the first president, I think, to visit India, and then George Bush also visited, and then Obama visited, and now of course Trump visited. So India typically is pretty, I would say, agnostic to the kind of type of government. And I think one of the reasons is being now I would say, the fourth largest economy. Economy trumps everything else. I mean, I think both countries know they need each other, right? And I mean, if you see the largest democracy in the world, and I mean, and I think we call US as the most advanced democracy in the world. I mean, there is a strong reason for them to be together. Even as we speak right now, they're talking about US, Japan, Australia, and India. They are having a summit of some sorts. Actually, they're planning their strategy, how to tackle, the China plus thing in the future. And I'm sorry to say that. I mean, I have personally nothing against China, but I think geopolitical situation we know is a bit, is a bit touchy, and so
Yeah.
people are planning strategies like that. I mean, the countries involved in that are these.
Well, I think building on that, Sanjay, looking at the current rifts in the global economy in China, do you feel the tides are shifting more? And I think you touched on this during your presentation towards Indian sourcing, people preparing and planning.
Yes, absolutely. And I think an Indian government having sensed that opportunity is welcoming that, and I think they are preparing themselves to, or they're gearing themselves up for that. The strategy meeting that I mentioned, I read just this morning that these four countries are having some kind of very high level strategic meeting, and it is for that purpose. I mean, I had heard recently, I think last week, NASA is building their jet propulsion engines in collaboration with Indian Space Research Organization in Bangalore. They're building it there because it is going to be less than half the cost. And how much confidentiality is there for projects around NASA and all that, right? And I mean, they are doing that. I mean, I don't think even in their sleep they wouldn't have thought of doing this. They're doing the same thing in China, despite the cost advantage, right? Because I mean, but they could do that in India.
Right. I agree with you on that. So you talked a lot about finding a partner or having a partner, and that makes collaborations and partnerships and alliances in India easier. What advice would you have for somebody that doesn't necessarily have access to finding a partner? How would they go about doing that?
So see, I am part of Atlanta Chamber of Commerce here, and Generally, every city in US has a very active chamber of commerce, and uh, I think they fill that role very well. I think if I were you, regardless of which city you are in, start with the chamber of commerce, and there you would find information or resources available to you which can help you find a good partner.
Good advice. I've got another one that just actually came in, and it says, please share your thoughts on any opportunity of tax waivers for a new business set up for a foreign company.
Can you repeat that question? I think I missed a few
Yeah, it
words.
says, please share your thoughts on any opportunity for tax waivers for new business set up for a foreign company.
So I think
Somebody.
just like it's a very good question. Just like we have in US, India, even though it's a federal, I mean there are like many states in India. I forgot, I think 26 or something. Like we have 50 states. India has 26, 28 states with a federal structure, and the states do have a lot of flexibility. It's very similar to here, to be able to offer those things on their own. Like Amazon, why they choose Hyderabad to build their India headquarters, and I think they have built 6 or 7 buildings, a cluster of 6, 7 buildings there, because the local government offered them a lot of tax waivers. I think, of course, the point I'm making is it will depend upon the the size of the work or size of investment you're looking at. But if I were you, I would start with the state government. And normally, I mean, in Atlanta, I have done that, and I have brought in some state governments from India and taken them to Chamber of Commerce here. The Chamber of Commerce generally has good information on those things, that which states had visited here and were offering these kind of SOPs to the companies or new investments, right, which are being offered.
Terrific.
If, I hope I've answered your question. So you can negotiate those things. I mean, it's not, India is not authoritarian regime. It's a democracy, and it is, I would say, business friendly. Only that the bureaucracy there is is pretty. There's some legacy they have there, and that's what makes it a bit difficult to get all the permits and everything. But otherwise, I think if you find a good partner there, I mean, you can really breeze through those.
Perfect. And actually, the individual that asked the question said yes. Well answered. Thank you. So another question that came through is, what do you suggest is the best way of vetting an Indian partner?
I think depending upon the kind of work you want to get done, I will look for a partner which has, I mean, I will get some references. If he has done work similar to what you want to get done, right, then you know that even they don't have to do much research. Then of course you can go through them right away, right? I mean, when clients, I mean, we provide technology work. When anybody comes to us and we give them references very close to the kind of work they want to get done. So then it's path of least resistance, right? I mean, for them it's easy, right? So same thing if you want to get a, let's say you want to do agriculture, you want to do healthcare, try to ask for references closer to your industry, and that will help you. That will educate you a lot more how to work there, specific to your industry. Because I can tell you a lot about technology, but I think somebody else can tell you more about your industry, right? If he has worked in your industry.
Very good advice. That networking is so important professionally. You have different connections that you can get advice from other people. So wonderful. We are actually at the top of the hour, Sanjay, and this has been a wonderful conversation and a great presentation. And I know our audience was very active in terms of asking questions. So thank you to them. Thank you to you for providing such great insight to our audience and our community. And I think what we try to strive for is the strength in our community lies within people like yourself and even our own members and extended community itself. And I hope that everybody out there continues to be safe and prosperous, and I would just like to say namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to more such interactions in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.
Good day.